Hey loves, today we are going to do a very fun video hashtag. This is going to be a VR response to Crochet Witch Tarot. This one is hashtag underdog decks. Now, I watched Crochet's video. It was a lot of fun, and I decided to do my own version of this. Basically, what she said was these are decks. She gave us two different options. I picked this one. Decks that when you first got them, you didn't really think or know how much you would love them. Like, they seemed cool, they seemed unassuming, but some kind of way they took your heart. Basically, you know, they came in the door, you thought it was going to be just okay, and come to find out it has rocked your world. So I have some decks like that, and when she said it, I was like, I have a lot of decks like that. So I narrowed it down to 10, and I'm going to show these decks to you now because I think some of you may really like these. My name is QueenAusetHeru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to anyone and everyone you know who might like it too. If you'd like to get a reading done, please email me or hit me up on social media. Underneath this video, I will put all of my personal information, and whenever possible, I also put links to where to get the decks, especially the ones that are like indie. You know, some of these I got off Etsy. So I will definitely, whenever possible, give you the link and the name to the decks. I'll try to give you all 10 if possible. All right, so the first one here is the Food Fortunes deck. Now, mind you, I just did a video about how to use this deck to do real readings. The creator said that this was a deck that really was meant, let me show you some of the pictures. It was meant to help people figure out what to eat for dinner or breakfast or lunch or whatever the case is, you know. What you trying to eat is the question. So all of the pictures in here are food and drinks and sweets and things like that. And when I first got the deck, I just got it to see if I could do readings with it. And then when I figured out a system, which I showed you in the other video, once I figured that system out, I fell in love with this deck. This deck is so awesome. First of all, it's so easy to use. It's a standard size. It's not too big in my hands. It shuffles easily like a dream. It's a little sassy. It says little smart things to you, which I really do like. It was, like I said before, it wasn't really meant to be a tarot deck, but he modeled it after the tarot deck. So it's very easy to figure out which card is which and how to use it. Like, for instance, this one is my Queen of Pentacles. This one here, now remember, it's the same as our Pentacles right there. So this one will be the Four of Pentacles. So it's very easy to figure out which card is which if you just play around with it. So it has quickly become one of my favorites. And I didn't even realize that was going to happen. That was so shocking to me because it's just pictures of food, you know. So I have decks that have, you know, very intricate artwork, you know, and things like that. So it was weird to me that this deck, which is really a simple deck, is like my number 2 favorite. I use it all the time. It gives the most precise, sarcastic, funny readings you could ever imagine. So that is my first underdog deck. My next underdog deck is this one, Language of Love Oracle Cards. Now, I got this one as a gift from the creator for the purposes of doing a honest review on it one time. And I did the review and I posted it and everything was great. Well, then I started to play with the deck in my romance readings. And this deck is hoo-ah. This deck is worded perfectly. The language is very modern language. It's very easy to understand what it's talking about. You know, the key word up front, and then look at how modern, hookup. You know, this is a common term that we use today, and then it goes into what this could mean in the relationship. So I've come to find this deck has I grab it every time now. Every time I do a romance reading, and I was not expecting that. I was expecting to like it because I thought it was cute, but it was so simple. I'm gonna be honest, it was so simple and didn't have really any illustrations on it. It's just, you know, the back is just like the box, and there's no illustration on it. It's just words. So I wasn't expecting to fall in love with it the way that I did. I just thought I would like it, you know, give it a decent review, you know. I loved it. I liked it up front and when I reviewed it, but I love it even more since I've been working with it. I love the modern language. I love how it breaks it down. You know, I love how it comes from different angles. I love it. I really love it. And like I said, every reading I do for lovers, for couples, I pull out this deck. And I usually do the tarot cards first, and then I pull this one out because this perfectly fills in any gaps in whatever I was talking about. So I'm really surprised at this one. Definitely an underdog deck because I didn't expect it. But it is definitely, I would say, my favorite romance deck at this point. And I have a lot of romance decks. I think I have like 10. And this one came in the door and went to the top of the list so unexpectedly. Because like I said, it's very simple, and I'm somebody who really likes art. So for the art to be this non-existent and me to be in love with a deck, I'd never even expected to happen to me. So that is the number 2 deck that is in my underdog my underdog position. Awesome deck. Now this one here, I'm gonna open it up and show you the box. I done beat the box up. This is my Strawberry Tarot, another deck that I got on Etsy. The creator sent it to me. It was a gift. And I did a full walkthrough on this particular deck. Now I'm going to show you why. When it first came in the door, I was like, okay, this is cute. Let me move this so I don't want to shake in your face. There you go. I was like, okay, this is cute. I like the tattoos. I think it's all women in this deck, or mostly women in this deck, if I'm not mistaken. And I love that. You know, you guys know I love women. You know, especially the nude feminine body as art. I mean, come on, you can't beat that. And as I started to work with the deck, I was like, wow, it's the perfect size. The images are very vibrant, and I love the fact that, again, the shuffleability. I'm gonna coin that term one day, shuffleability. Somebody else probably already did, but it's very shuffleable, or should I say easy to shuffle because of the size of the cards. Now, the one thing I think that it could do without is the borders. I don't think it even needs the borders. I think it could just let the art, you know, go to the edge. But I gave this deck like a 10 out of 10 because I just fell in love with it. So I was so surprised. I love the art. Let me show you these shoes that they have on, if I can find one. Because a lot of them, and you're going to see like their outfits are very modern. Oh, let me show you her while I'm looking for shoes. As you can see, it's a very modern interpretation. But what I liked a lot was their footwear. A lot of them have on these really sexy boots. They're like, look at that, like tie-ups and thigh boots and knee boots, and I love those. When I lived in Philadelphia, it got very, very cold, and I often would wear thigh boots and knee boots. And these little lace-up strappy ones are awesome for the spring and summer. I love these. And so many of them have on something like that. So I love their outfits. I just love it. And the more I use this deck, it's so easy. And another thing I love is how many of them have tattoos. You see a lot of the people in here that have tattoos. So as soon as I started using this deck, I just fell in love with it, and I wasn't expecting it. That's why it's so weird, you know, these underdog decks, because you don't expect it. You think it's just going to be, you know, I have 500 decks. So I see beautiful decks all day long. So for something to be one of my favorites is a lot. A lot. Here's another underdog deck. Now I'm going to show you this one. Odin's Playbook. This is another one that I got from the creator as a gift to do an actual, review on it. And when I got the deck, let me tell you what it was. It said Odin's Playbook, and it said, what's the other part? Norse. So I'm like, okay, so it's from the Norse tradition. I don't know anything about the Norse tradition, but what I do know is Thor, Loki, and Odin, and Freya. So I was expecting, from who I think lives there, I thought the Norse people were white. That's what I assumed. So when I got the deck, I was expecting to have some, Northern Europeans, mostly people, that were white people. So I was like, cool, okay. And I thought I would like the deck. I thought it would be great as far as history is concerned. It definitely has a lot of interesting aspects to it. Like, for example, you can learn how to read runes if you want to with this deck. So I thought that was interesting in itself. And I was like, okay, this is an interesting deck. But I didn't think much of it until I started using it. The very day that I sat here and showed it to you guys, I found out there were black people in the Norse tradition. And I was like, wait, I felt like this little girl. Look how her mouth wide open. I felt like her. I was like, wait, what? I was shocked. That's exactly how I felt. It's funny I pulled that card at random. That's exactly how I felt. I did not know that. And when you get into the guidebook and when you talk to the creator, apparently there were people in that part of the world during this time period who were of color. I had no clue. There is an entire suit dedicated, in a whole bunch of the cards you see these people mixed in, with everybody else. And I didn't know that. I had no clue. So very quickly, like I didn't even expect it, this became one of my favorite cards. I mean, one of my favorite decks, because the art in itself is beautiful. I mean, just period, point blank, the art is beautiful. But then to find out the history, look at this art. I want you to see this. To find out the history that there were people of color up there, I was shocked. So you have this beautiful artwork, and then I learned something that I did not know. I had no clue. So the creator and I was talking, and she was saying that when she decided to do this deck, that she did not know, and she found out. And as she was, doing the research or whatever for the deck, she said it was like immediate. She's like, oh my God, I got to put this out there. The world has to know. I did not know. And I'm sure a lot of other people didn't know. So from using this deck, not only from it being decent, being able to use runes with it, the beautiful, vibrant, colorful artwork, and then to see people of color, it just took me. I use this deck all the time. It's an excellent read. And it's so playful. Look at this playful energy. Look at her hugging on that bear. Such a playful energy. So if you want to learn more about the Norse tradition, if you want to learn about runes, this is definitely on point. And then, of course, like I said, there was other surprise elements. So this deck was definitely an underdog deck because I had no clue I was going to fall in love with it. I thought I would just like it, but no, I'm I'm infatuated. You know how you meet a guy or a girl, and when you first meet them, they're okay, but you're like, okay, you're okay. But then you really sit down and start talking to them and getting to know them, and you find out they're beautiful. You find out they have a beautiful heart and a beautiful soul. That was that deck for me. The Odin's Playbook. Now, let me show you another underdog deck. I saw this deck on the internet somewhere. And it made me laugh. I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. Okay. But I didn't realize how much I was going to love it. I reached out to the creator. Me and her started talking. She's a lovely, lovely woman. And she sent this to me as a gift. And I sat and did the review. Well, after I do reviews, I often use the decks. And when I started to use this deck, not only did it make me laugh and smile, but it became very near and dear to my heart because the messages in this deck are not playing with you. It's not like little jokey jokes, The messages in this deck are very serious. Sometimes they're sweet. And sometimes they're playful, but they're very like letting you know. They're like you need to sit down. You need to get yourself together. You're doing really good. They give you encouragement, but they're really like letting you know. They're talking about your abundance. They were a lot more mature than I expected the the sock monkeys to be. And I fell in love with them. I keep this deck right next to me because I know if I'm in a bad mood or if I have a hard reading with a difficult client who's sad or something like that, I know I can pull out this deck, pull a card from myself, and get some comfort or some advice from the sock monkeys. And the sock monkeys have been very accurate. They've been very kind to me, and I just fell in love. I just fell in love with this deck, and I use it all the time. I've done several readings with it. Let me show you one more. I've done several readings with it, on the channel, but I use it to read myself a lot more often than you guys see it, because I try to use all my decks when I do readings, when I do recorded readings. But with this one, it's really a favorite of mine. I use it all the time. So that is the Sock Monkey Oracle. Alright, so here's another underdog deck. Wisdom of the Oracle. And this one, I got this deck only because it was on sale, I think at Hay House. I know I bought this deck. It was on sale at Hay House or Amazon or something like that. And I was like, I think it was like buy one, get one free or something like that. And I didn't have the deck, so I said, I'll get it. Well, I got the deck. And when I first got the deck, I looked through it. I like glossy decks. I thought it was pretty. As you can see, it's attractive, And I pulled a few cards for myself. They were accurate enough. But I really didn't like the deck. I just was very meh about it. I was like, it's okay. First of all, I think that the images are a little far away. Like, like you can see there's a guy right there, or a woman. There's a rainbow. I thought they were kind of far away. You can't see the elephant that good. I would like it if it was bigger, kind of brought in some. I don't need all the background, stuff like that. So I was kind of critical of it. I liked it, but I was just like, Then I saw somebody doing a reading with it, because mind you, I had only pulled like 1 or 2 cards from myself, and I had kind of filed it away because I have a lot of decks by Colette Baron Reed, and to be honest with you, I never really gave them much interest. They're not the kind of decks that draw me. Certain decks draw me in and I'm obsessed with them immediately. This was not one. I was just like, it's okay, I like it, but So when I saw somebody else do a reading with it, and I was like, wait, what? Like what did you just say? Like, I couldn't believe what they were getting from the images. I was like, you said what? So I went back to it. I pulled it out because it was in my purgatory box. It was in the box like, do I really want this or not? And when the person used it, I pulled it out and I used it in one reading that day for the client. And I've been using it ever since. This deck comes out every day. I don't have not one deck that comes out every single day, except for that Language of Love. That comes out every day too. But it's very few decks I really reach for that frequently. And this is one of them. And not because of the art, not because of Colette, because I'm really iffy with Colette, but because every time I do a reading with it, it adds so much information and depth to the reading that I was like, yo, it has a very interesting perspective. And like I said, I don't know how, I don't know what happened, but when I started to use it, it adds a very interesting perspective. So I kept using it, and it never failed. It never lets me down. It never fails to amaze me. Now, I'm still very ambivalent. The card stock is big, but I mean, as far as a read, this is one of the best reads. I use it all the time. So it went from being a deck that I was meh about to a deck that I'm crazy about. To a deck I have to pull out every time I start to do readings for a client. So that is the, what is that? Wisdom of the Oracle deck. Very surprising to me. I was not expecting that at all. I slept on that one for like a year. For like a year I slept on that one. So glad I woke up. Now another underdog deck is this one, Tarot in Space. Now this was another one that was gifted to me from the creator to do a reading, not to do a reading, to do a review on, and I liked it. I thought it was cute. I was like, okay, cute concept. If you look on the inside of the box, they've changed the suits, so I thought the new suits were really fun. But I'm gonna tell you what made me fall in love with this deck, because it wasn't the suits. What made me fall in love with this deck is that this deck has its own language. Look at that. Isn't that cool? And I never see anybody with this deck. It is so decent. It has the greatest silverish edging on it. I thought that was decent. It has its own language. And that's what made me fall in love. You can take that, you know, this key right here and upside down. You can take this key right here and translate what that is over there. Now mind you, I haven't done it. I've only done it with a few of them, because it's like, okay, I gotta sit there and translate it. So I have only done it with like one card. I think I translated it and I think it said love or something like that. So this deck is another one that I keep next to me and I use very, very frequently. Most decks I rotate and I don't use it more than once in a month. But certain ones, like the ones I'm showing you, especially this one, I have a tendency to reach for a lot. And it's really an underdog deck because I didn't expect that. I just thought it was going to be cute. You know, I saw a couple of the art and I was like, oh, it's going to be cute. But then I was like, whoa, it's cute. It has excellent art. I love the artist. I don't know who did this art. I love the little fake, not the fake, the created language that it uses. I thought that was a great idea. I've never seen a deck do that before. I've seen runes, but I've never seen somebody create their own alphabet and use it in their deck. And I was just so like in love with that. So every day or every couple days, I grab this deck out. And some days I play around with the little alphabet. And and some days I just use the deck, but it's beautiful and I swear it's underrated. I would love to see more people using this deck. This deck is awesome. If you're into aliens, if you're into space, you know, if you're into like, you know, a little, like for instance, you could learn how to write this language and like write letters between you and your friends. When we were kids, we used to do something called Pig Latin. And Pig Latin was basically when you took words and rearranged the letters. But only people that knew Pig Latin knew how to speak it. I don't know where this came from. I don't know who made it up, but we used to do it all the time. I think you took the first letter of a word and put it at the end and add an A. So if I was saying you, I would say ooye. That was Pig Latin. Don't know where it came from. Don't know if it's politically correct. Don't know nothing. All I know is that we used it for like 20 years. And people all knew it after a while, so it stopped being useful. But you can do the same thing with this. You could learn this language and leave notes for your significant other or you and your friends. So I thought that was very clever. I was not expecting that from this deck. And I wasn't expecting to love this deck so much. But the cleverness of it, everything, the colors, everything, it's just a creative, clever deck. And it went from being, oh, okay, that's cute, to, oh my goodness, that has to be right next to me. Because I keep my decks, as you can see, I have them in a number of different places around the room. And some are right next to me and some are across the room. These stay right next to me because I never know when I'm going to want them. This is the next one. We only have 2 left now. Healing Not Broken. This is another deck that was gifted to me for the purposes of doing a review. And I'm gonna show it to you, right? It is a very, very simple deck. So when I got this deck, I was like, okay, I like it. But then I started to pull one card a day for myself for like a whole week. And this deck made me cry like a baby. Okay. I did not expect that. Okay. I pulled this deck. Let me pull it back some so you can read the bottom. There you go. I was not expecting that. And that's how this one became another underdog deck. Because it went from, oh, it's cute, to, oh my goodness, I need this deck. I only pulled one card for like a week, and then there was a companion deck to this. I did the same thing with that one, and this is the one that really touched my spirit. And like I said, it brought me to tears. And I am a crier. A lot of you know that I am somebody who used to hold my emotions back, but I stopped doing that because it's unhealthy. And I am definitely a crier. And this deck made me cry several times. In a good way, like, you know, releasing kind of way. And so it became a deck that I keep it right next to me, like I said, in this little drawer right next to my leg, because I never know when something's going to happen and I'm gonna need this deck. So like you can see, the artwork is very simple, the messages are very simple. We're not, you know, it's not like rocket science, but it's so profound, especially when you need that kind of a heartfelt, nurturing message. So this is another underdog deck. I had no idea how awesome it is and how much I was going to connect to it. Now, this is number 9. The Power of Surrender cards. When I got this deck, I bought this deck myself. I bought it on, if I'm not mistaken, it was Amazon. And I bought this deck because I had the book, The Power of Surrender, which is a good book. I don't even think I finished it. I think I'm still reading it. And I got this deck. So when I first got the deck, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't like it. It has no diversity at all. This is like, this deck act like that pretty skinny people are the only people in the world, you know. So at first, when I looked at it the very first time, I went through it. I loved the messages. I thought the messages at the bottom were boss, but I really did not like the artwork. I thought this was the least inclusive artwork I've ever seen in my life. And I kind of used it a few times, but then I threw it to the side. But I'm gonna tell you, one day I was talking to a client, and the word surrender, surrender, surrender kept coming to my mind. This client greatly needed to surrender. She was holding on to so much. So I pulled this deck out. Even though I'm not fond of the artwork, I pulled it out anyway. And I pulled cards for her. And it was phenomenal. Every card I got was hitting so hard on what was going on with her. So I kept using it all that day. I had like 4 clients that day, and then I read it on myself. And I was like, you know what? The artwork really is not my favorite, but the messages and the ease of use of this deck made it another one that I had to have close by me. Whenever I have a client that needs to surrender something, to let some things go, and you can always tell because the other cards would be telling you that they're stubbornly holding on to hurt, fear, whatever. And whenever that happens, I immediately grab this deck. So it went from being a deck that I was like, to a deck that I use constantly. And here is the last one, Spirit of the Animals Oracle. Again, this is a deck that I thought was going to be okay. And when I got the deck, the one with this one, I'm going to tell you what it is with this one. First of all, I like the fact that the artwork is beautiful and you don't need the guidebook to know what it's talking about. That's what took me with this deck. Now, the fact that it's so big makes it difficult for me to work with it and like put it in my card holder, as you can see. But I do recommend this animal deck. If you like animals, or if you just want to learn about animals, this is a perfect deck to do it with. The artwork is beautiful, and it definitely an underdog deck. I didn't even think I was going to like it that much, and fell in love with it. I love when it happens though. So these are my top 10 underdog decks. If you made it this far in the video, I thank you for watching. And please come back soon because I have a lot more to say. See you later.